Hey guys, how's it going? Janine here. I am back for another Friday to honor someone whose birthday is today. Another famous person to show you a little glimpse into what a human design reading is like based on somebody that you should know a little something about. Almost 100 years ago today, the very famous, very passionate, very transformative, brave, and courageous Malcolm X was born. May 19th, 1925 was his birthday. I'm going to try to do this and get through this today because I've already recorded this 7 times or something because I first my internet went out and shut me off, and then I just had a coughing fit. And like this, I think the ghost of Malcolm X probably doesn't want me to record this, but I think it's important to talk about this. I had no idea what I was actually getting into this morning until I pulled his chart. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that and share it with you because it's pretty astounding. So, okay, Malcolm X, we know, was a huge influence, had a huge influence on the civil rights movement. He was a extraordinary historical figure who really ruffled a lot of feathers and who is known for really not backing down, right? He was a big fighter, and a lot of people would, of course, compare um, his idea of what was fighting for a good cause against Martin Luther King Jr.'s, who was all about staying peaceful, where Malcolm X was like, we will fight even if it requires violence. So let's take a look at his chart. Malcolm X was a projector, an emotional projector with a fair bit of definition. He's got a defined head, which is our center for processing thoughts and ideas, and it's the pressure to know stuff. It's also where we engage with possibilities or have a sense of awe and wonder, imagination. He's got a defined mind, or ajna, which is where we have the center for processing the energy for reasoning, analysis, computation. It's kind of like the left brain kind of skills. He's also got definition in his throat center. It's this purple square here, a lot of definition. He's got a fully connected channel from the 31, which is the gate of influence, all the way down to the gate 7, which is the gate of the advisor. This together creates an energy called the channel of the alpha. And these are like 7 coming out of the G center, which is our center for identity and direction, our path forward, who we know ourselves to be. The 7 is this real strategist, this real advisor kind of energy that can see like the whole picture and understands exactly what we need to do to move forward in a productive manner. And it's kind of a little bit more serious. The 31 is really charismatic. It's this leadership energy that everybody wants to fall in line behind. And but it may not necessarily be sort of the brains behind the operation. Not to say that that's like stupid or anything, because it's just very much a genuinely likable person on the outside, whereas the 7 is like this strategist, this kind of calculating strategist on the back end. So these two together create the channel of the alpha. He's also got gate 8, which we've been talking about all week, right? This is where the sun has been lurking for the past 4 or something days, where the gate 8 is the gate of contribution, right? And also, I guess it should be no surprise, it's also his conscious sun. So it's where the sun was also in the skies about the same time of the year, right? So the sun is transiting through all of these very Taurus energies. So there it is, gate 8 in his conscious sun. And if you've been paying attention for a little while here with this community, then you'll probably know by now that the conscious sun, actually the unconscious sun together, the sun gates create for us 70% of our personality. It's like really, especially the conscious side is like a an app that we have, a tab that we have open on our computer at all times that we always use. We know it's there for us. We just constantly use it. We don't have to try. It's just a huge part of who we are. And so the gate of contribution sure was Malcolm X. Now, what we've been studying this week is that this is all about making a contribution based on being yourself, being your real self, and having the courage to not just roll up your sleeves and dive in and be a part of the team and support your people, but in a way that is so staying so true to who you really are. And so it's bolstered by that gate one in the G center again, identity and direction. That's self-expression, fueling upward into the throat. And the 8 wants to express that true self and make a difference and leave a legacy. And I think he sure did that. Gate 20 really wants things to happen right now. It can be extraordinarily impatient. However, it's extremely good at rallying people around it, generating enthusiasm, getting people together around a common theme or common campaign or a common project, getting people excited and on board with something. Okay, so there's that defined G, center of direction and self-expression and identity. But look over here, he's got an undefined heart center. The heart center is where we have willpower and motivation. It's also about what we value, not just things in the material plane, but also like the people in our lives that we value. How do we establish our values? Do we value ourselves? What is our sense of worth about ourselves? When this center is totally open the way it is for Malcolm X with no defined gates, that leaves him really open to a fluctuating, inconsistent, unreliable sense of his own self-worth. And so people with either undefined or open heart centers are known to be constantly trying to prove themselves. And we can really, really burn ourselves out trying to prove our worth in this world. And this is like, we can become very conditioned to just keep fighting no matter what and keep showing up thinking this is when I'll be worthy. Now, if I do this, it'll make me feel worthwhile. And we can really question our own place in this world because we feel like what we're doing is never enough and we're not enough. So this is a really hard thing to grapple with. Before I go on, in case you haven't looked into Malcolm X, and I really don't know much about him, but I do know that his family was terrorized by the Ku Klux Klan when he was very small and throughout his lifetime probably, but his father tried to relocate the family numerous times because they were harassed relentlessly by these white supremacists in their Omaha, Nebraska town. They moved to a different state a couple of times and were still harassed and still terrorized. They burned the family house down. They burned down Malcolm X's house. They called for help and the fire department did nothing because guess what? They were a bunch of white supremacist Klan members too. They let the house burn and they did not help this family. Eventually the Klan killed Malcolm X's dad. They called him out of the house and shot him. And I think I read that Malcolm X as a little boy watched. The family name, by the way, was Little, and he dropped that and chose the X because he did not want to be identified with that given name to his family that he associated with being enslaved, that was a slave name that was given to them and that is not their real name. So he dropped it. And that really, I think, wow, identity, right? That sense of identity. I know who I am and I am not that. As with all projectors, he's not going to have, I failed to mention this. His uncle was lynched. With all of this trauma, his mother ended up in a mental health institution. So I say it like it sounds like it was probably like it was, not functional back then. in the, I guess it was probably the 20s or 30s. You know, it wasn't like a healthy place that was really going to rehabilitate her. They just put her in the mental ward. And so he was removed and put into foster care, and that bounced around for a while. I mean, talk about a traumatic childhood. Holy smokes. It's no wonder this man would grow up to become a fighter and fight for what's right, and try fight tooth and nail to dismantle this, what he knew was wrong. As a projector, he saw the system and he saw what was wrong, and he was not going to back down. Given this leadership stuff that he has going on in his G and throat, and look down from the root center, he's got 39 connected all the way to the 55. This is connected together. They're called, it's the channel of emoting. It's big, powerful energy for expressing emotions and feeling pressured. 39 is the gate of provocation, which I know real well. That's my conscious son. These are people who are going to provoke you to admit your truth and see your truth. It can be very off-putting, it can be mouthy, it can be offensive, and it doesn't necessarily try to be, but it can really provoke other people into action, because it can say, you're full of BS. You're not telling the truth to yourself or anybody else. Get with the program. And 55 is the gate of the abundance of spirit, which sounds great, right? And it is. It's this glorious energy for experiencing and showcasing all the emotions available on the whole spectrum. And these are people can really have a hard time in life. This is tough energy that can be shunned for being emotional. And of course he's going to be emotional because of all the trauma that he experienced. But these people are here to remind us that it's necessary to experience all the whole spectrum of emotions, because we're not robots. We're not here to squash ourselves. We have to show it, because this is being human. This is what the essence of humanity is to experience all of this full breadth and width of all the feelings you can possibly have. And of course, he's got the 38. The 38 is the gate of the fighter over here in the root center, right? This is classic. It's like nicknamed the activist energy. These are people who need to find meaning in life. They don't want to put their energy in this pressure coming from the earth up into the root center. They don't want to put that energy to anything that doesn't have meaning for them. They've got to have a position in life that is fighting for what's right. Now, in the low expression, the 38 can just be hand on hip, sass mouth, fighting, puffing out its, it can be, and I'll compare it to like the pigeon that's puffing out its feathers. It can just like pick a fight for no reason, but he certainly had a good reason to be picking a fight. The 52, I would also point out, that's the gate of stillness. And even though it's in the root, and which is like pressure driving upward, the 52 can be still as a mountain. I'm not moving. I'm not going to go. This is where I am. I'm going to stand here, and you're not going to push me around. Ooh, I get teared up thinking about his bravery and his courage to fight at all costs, right? The 3 is the gate of ordering, which to me this is my Chiron. This sucker comes around to bite us in the ass all the time. It's constantly teaching us lessons that we are here to up level and overcome. This is about, sorry, that's Chiron. I should just disregard that. 3 is about pushing for change and needing to make progress. It wants to start over again. It's like just like move forward. This is something new that I need to start, and something we can put all the pieces together and see how we can mutate for the better. And it gets really, really stifled by this power coming out of 60, which is limitations. It's like, I want to move past the limitations. 3 is like, forget your limitations. I'm moving forward in a different direction. We're going to do this from now on. And it can get really, really gummed up if it doesn't see progress. 27 coming out of the sacral here. Of course, he's not going to have the sacral defined, like we mentioned. Projectors never do. But he does have this 27 is the gate of nourishment. And this is where we're like teaching the tribe how they can take care of themselves. It's providing the materials and the resources and the framework for our how we're going to move forward, and we're going to nourish ourselves, and you're going to learn how to nourish yourself so that you can survive and move forward in a healthy manner. It's like the difference between teaching someone, like my teacher Katie Irvine at HD school says, it's like give a man a fish, he eats for a day, and teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. It's that sort of thing. It's the teaching of the lifetime so that they have the skills necessary to move forward. We talked about he's got this really, really defined emotional center with a lot of big energy coming out of there. But I also want to draw your attention to his undefined spleen, and the spleen center is where our energy for processing health and safety matters, our attunement and hyper awareness of your environment. This is really where like ancient animal instinct comes out of. It's like the deer in the woods hears a stick cracking, and knows that that's potentially a threat. And so it takes off in fear and to protect itself. And the 44 being defined here is this like old disruptor of toxic patterns almost. It's this energy that knows, it tunes into what's gone wrong and can pull out and separate, like, we're not going to do that anymore. That didn't work. We need to move forward with the good stuff. Here are the good things about it. And it can present for its people a really great path forward with only like the good stuff. However, 44 can get stuck in the past. It can fear the past. It can also remember going way back to say, we did that one time and that didn't work out, not doing that again. And so it can stay a little bit stuck. People who have an undefined spleen center are kind of known for holding on to things that don't matter, or holding on to things that aren't good for them anymore, things that aren't yours to carry. Remember, if you have an undefined or an open center, you are absorbing the energy from other people and then amplifying it outward. And so other people's fears and safety matters he's really absorbing. And so imagine the responsibility that he felt for his people, even though he's driving them to like, don't turn your back, fight, stand here, resort to violence if need be. He was absorbing everybody else's fear in those situations. So that's a really quick overview of his chart. As a projector, being able to see all of these things that are wrong with the system and know how to change it, right? The projector is often, if they make their expertise and their vision known to others, it can be rejected sometimes, right? Because the strategy for the projector is to wait for the invitation before blurting out, this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong. And they can, if they say it when it's not been asked for, they can be really rejected for having spoken up when it wasn't their turn. And imagine, I mean, under such horrendous racism, like, of course, his voice never would have been welcomed. And so what a hard life, what an absolutely hard life. It's pretty remarkable. We didn't talk about his profile. He's a 5'1". I would get into that in a deeper reading for someone. hit the rest of his planets, you know, his Chiron, that's on the very bottom. If you look at your chart, your Chiron is, like I said before, I was talking about the 3, but Chiron is that pain in the neck. That's our wounded healer. It's this Achilles heel. It's like this thing that continuously shows up for us, and we have to overcome. And then once we do, we can teach it, that lesson, to other people. But the 42 is the energy for continuing something and bringing it to its final conclusion, completing a cycle. It's completing a cycle, and it is carrying things over the finish line, um, putting the cap on, the finishing touches on something that new that has been started. It's a completion of a cycle. And so, yeah, 42, he would have like had a really hard time. That would constantly have shown up for him as something that he grappled with, is actually finishing. When is this done? When is this? And imagine, we're still to this day trying to dismantle systemic racism. And like, when is this cycle going to be completed? You know, it would have been really hard to let go of that and transcend that. So, okay, that's, I'm going to stop there. And I hope that this was informative. I hope that this was interesting for you. And I'm so grateful for you for hanging around. This is really cool. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know if you have comments or questions, or if you find out in the future that you know somebody's birthday is coming up, that would be a good person to analyze. Give me a shout. Let me know. See you next time, guys. Have a great weekend.